Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be about an experience that happened to me on my last flight. If you haven't already seen that video, it was the last one that I just uploaded on my Toronto flight, and this is what the video is going to be about. This video is a little bit different than the videos that I have posted on my channel before. It's not going to be me traveling anywhere. It's solely going to be about my experience that happened. And if you are interested, then continue watching. If not, go ahead and click out of this video. This was leaving Vancouver. I saw her in the airport and I had never met her before, and she had simply commented on my infinity sign tattoo that I have on the back of my neck. And she had just said, "Oh, I really like your infinity sign tattoo." Usually my uniform is fully covering my tattoo. Nobody has really mentioned anything about it. Maybe it was peeking out. I'm not sure how much it was peeking out. Anyways, she mentioned it, and that was my first interaction with her. Later, I find out that she's on my flight going to Toronto. And I had an interaction with her later on in the flight, and she was just asking about what I had done throughout the quarantine. All that I mentioned that I had done was that kept it really laid back. I didn't find another job. For those of you who don't know me personally, my dad did unfortunately pass away last year, not from COVID, but I will talk about that in a completely different video. So anyways, I just let her know that, you know, it was a really busy year. My dad passed away, so just kept it really easy. So that conversation wasn't super in depth. She knew that I had a daughter, and that was pretty much it. That was the gist of the conversation. Sorry if I keep looking down. I did write all my notes out here because there are super important things that I want to cover and I really don't want to forget. It might be all over the place, and this is where it all went down. The first thing she says to me was, "Oh, you're going to have another baby soon," or "Are you going to have another baby?" Something relating to having another baby soon. And let me put this out there and make it very, very clear. No, I am not pregnant. And I said, "Oh, that's really strange that you brought that up, because about 2 weeks ago, me and my husband were talking about pregnancy and babies and having more kids and all this stuff. And it was revolving around the topic of me getting my IUD taken out, which I'm going to be getting taken out sometime this week because it's the 5-year expiry is this week." So anyways, it was a super relevant conversation, and it was really relevant that she brought it up to me because we were talking about babies. I told her about the IUD, and she's like, "I don't want to freak you out, but I am a Reiki healer. And if you don't know what Reiki is, you can go and Google that on your own. I do not have clear definitions exactly of what it is. It's a healing, energy healing. These people are able to read your energies, and they talk about your chakras and all this stuff. You kind of need to have a little bit of background to understand what it is. I know a little tiny bit about it because my sister did go to a Reiki healing before, and sometimes Reiki healers are able to get messages. Some of them are able to have those medium readings. I don't know the correct terminology to it, but this lady was able to tell me specific things that she would have no business really knowing. She talked about having a baby, which related to my IUD talk that I had with my husband a week ago or a few weeks ago. And she said, I was thinking about it all night, and the words baby, baby, baby just kept coming into my head, and I had to bring it up to you. And I didn't know what it was, and I didn't know how it related to you in any way, but I had this feeling that I had to let you know," which is what she did. She opened up to me about her healings and all this stuff and how she was able to feel energies. And then she brought up my dad. And since my dad passed, I have not been able to feel his presence in any ways that give me validation that he's around. And let me talk about that a little bit. I have a really hard time with signs and feeling things or feeling his presence. And I don't know if it's just that I'm not ready to feel it. And I did have a really, really hard time when he passed, and I still do. So anyways, I haven't really seen anything, or I don't get dreams of him. So this lady told me, your dad is always with you, especially when you're traveling. He's always with you when you travel. And I had a thought not that long ago about how strange it would feel to know that my dad is not going to be here when I come back home. And my dad was super involved in me, in my job as a flight attendant. You know, he always would ask where I'm flying or what the weather's like or what I'm gonna do, and super invested in the destinations I was going to. And so I did have a thought of, this is really strange. It's really strange to return to work and come home, and I'm just not used to feeling the void of my dad's interest in my job. And so when she said that he was with me all the time, especially with traveling, at that exact moment, I broke down in tears. Mind you, this is on the plane in the middle of a flight. I was wearing a mask and I was crying. In the back galley, I was bawling my eyes out. Like, I could not control it. And it was like at that moment, I just felt his presence. I needed the validation that my dad was with me, and that alone, those words gave it to me. And it was the weirdest feeling, because I was crying, and you know, and she was like, I'm not trying to make you cry, I'm so sorry. And you know, I was just telling her, no, I'm super open to this. Like, this is what I wanted. This is what I've been waiting for. I've been waiting for the validation. And she was able to give me the answers that I needed. So anyways, that's one part of it, about his presence and being with me. And then she goes on to talk about, you worry a lot, and you don't need to worry because your dad is going to be with you every step of the way. And with your pregnancy, this is the most bizarre thing. A few weeks ago, during that conversation about the whole IUD thing, I was crying to my husband, like sobbing like a baby, hyperventilating, because I was just telling him about how strange it was to think about that the next time I get pregnant, or the next time we have a child, that my dad is not going to be a part of that with us physically. Because the first time around, my dad was super involved. He was the one to take me to my doctor's appointments, you know, and he was super, super excited. Aaliyah was the very first grandchild, and he was a doting grandpa. He loved it. So I was just thinking about the fact that he wasn't going to be able to be involved with us for that. And, you know, it was a worry, because I was so used to having that support from my dad. And when she told me I didn't need to worry, I was like, oh my gosh, how could you have known that I had that conversation so in depth about the things that you're referring to and relating together? This is what really got me even more shocked than I was already. So on the way to the airport that morning, I noticed an IKEA sign. And usually in the mornings, it was 5 o'clock in the morning when we were on the way to the airport. Usually I'm just kind of like la-di-da, kind of out of it, super tired. And that morning it was weird, because I weirdly noticed the sign. Like, I saw the sign, I looked at it, and I noticed it. Back to the talk with this lady. She mentions, so you're gonna have to start getting some baby stuff soon and go to IKEA. And my jaw freaking dropped. Not only because I had seen the IKEA sign, I was like, the fact that you're mentioning IKEA and it's so relevant to me in my pregnancy is absolutely insane. Let me tell you why. When I was pregnant, my dad used to take me to my doctor's appointments. And majority of the time, on our way home, we would stop at IKEA and we would go have breakfast or we would have lunch or whatever. And it was something that we constantly did. And I didn't really get a lot of stuff from IKEA for baby stuff. Like the sole relation between IKEA and my pregnancy was the fact that my dad and I used to go there to eat after my appointments. And so when she said IKEA, I was thinking, there is no way that she's bullshitting. There's no way, because if you were to mention IKEA to somebody completely random and tell them to go get baby stuff at the same time, like IKEA is not the store that you mention for baby stuff, you know? I could not believe it. I was like, holy shit. Another thing that really freaked me out in a good way was when she was talking about the kids and she was talking about my dad. She said, your dad is always with the kids, word for word. The reason why this freaked me out was because when my sister went to her Reiki healer, she said the exact same thing, word for word. If it's coming through in a message, through to my sister and through to me, 100% I believe it. Another thing that she mentioned was that my dad, he sends his signs or he comes through and his presence is known through song. And she had no idea about is my dad was super into music and music was a huge part of his life. And my mom will play the Stingray channel, and so many of his songs that we remember him playing guitar to or singing during our childhood would pop up on that channel. Songs that we had during his funeral or his mass pop up on that channel. And when she said that it came through song, oh my gosh, I got shivers. I was like, this is so unbelievable that I'm able to experience this and get all the validation that I needed from this woman that I've never met before. When my dad was still alive, he actually visited my aunt in New Brunswick, his sister, and that's where he's originally from. And it was the first time that my dad had gone back since he had left when he was a teenager, I believe. So that trip was super important to him. And recently, in the last few months, my aunt has seen my dad or his presence in the room on the bed that he visited or that he stayed in when he went to visit my aunt. So before I told this lady anything, I said, you know what is really strange is my aunt also sees my dad. And before I could finish the conversation or that sentence, she said, sitting on the end of the bed. And that is literally word for word, I kid you not, what my aunt told me, word for word. And if I had said it a second sooner, it would have been in sync. Because my aunt told me, when I see your dad, I open the door and he's sitting on the end of the bed. And I sit down beside him and I put my arm around him and then he disappears. So the fact that this lady was able to tell me that he was sitting on the end of the bed before I even said anything completely blew my mind. This whole experience was by far the craziest thing I have ever experienced in my whole life, especially when it comes to experiencing things in relation to my dad. It's so unbelievable but believable at the same time. You know, if you're not into it or you're super skeptical, be skeptical, but how can you be skeptical to something that is so relevant that only applies to certain people? She also brought up synchronizations and seeing numbers in sync. And she said, do you see numbers in sync? And I said, yes, I see 1111 all the time, like all the time. Our clocks in the kitchen are set to different times, like they're a few minutes apart. And on random days, I will just turn to one and it's 11:11. I'll turn my phone on and it's 11:11. Like I see these numbers everywhere. Never see any other numbers. It's always 11:11. And 11:11 does have an angelic meaning behind it. And it also can mean that your loved one is trying to send you a sign. And she had validated to me that that is the sign that my dad was sending me. And she was coming through her. yeah, it was completely one of the best things I've ever experienced. And I'm so, so, so grateful that she was able to open up and share it. And I felt this sense of peace. And a little while after we had the whole conversation, she went back into the cabin and I was just standing alone in the galley, and I heard in my head, I'm here, I'm here. And I just kept hearing it saying, I'm here. And I couldn't tell if I was smiling physically or I was smiling in my mind. But I knew at that moment that my dad was with me and he was on that plane with me, and everything she was telling me was coming straight from him. And I have no doubt that he is watching over all of us. If you stayed to the end of this video, thank you so, so much for tuning in. I really wanted to make a video and share my experience and kind of document what I went through and yeah, share it with you guys. So thank you so much for watching this video. Stay tuned for another video. I will do more sit down videos, and if you're interested, subscribe.